Hello, I'm David Hackoff, Executive Director of NewFest, New York's leading LGBTQ plus film and media organization. Thank you so much for joining us for a Q&A with the creators of the incredible HBO series, We're Here. We love working with HBO. They are incredible partners to us. They have provided an incredible platform for queer stories throughout their programming, and this is a particularly special series. And full transparency, we're recording this on Monday, November 21st, following the events at Colorado Springs this past weekend. So we are all sending our love to the queer community in Colorado and throughout the country and throughout the world. And we are reminded of the power of visibility and queer storytelling. And We're Here is really an incredible example of how that works. And we're really excited to talk to the creators about their amazing series and the work they've done on the ground. And we have a particularly special moderator for today's discussion, someone who was actually featured in the episode, Linda Stay. And I'm going to read her bio because it's quite impressive in terms of the impact of the work that she does. Linda serves on the board of directors at Pride of Southern Utah and is a passionate advocate and activist for LGBTQ plus and marginalized people. After being featured in the Sundance Award-winning documentary film 8, The Mormon Proposition in 2010, she began working with Equality Utah in an effort to secure equal rights and protections for the LGBTQ plus community. Currently, Linda is the development director at Switchpoint Community Resource Center, advocating and championing for those experiencing poverty and homelessness. And Linda is a mom to 9 children, 3 of whom are queer. We are so grateful to have Linda to moderate this discussion. Please welcome Linda Stay.
Thank you so much for having me, David. It's a privilege and an honor to be here with you and to get to be with Steve and Johnnie.
Thanks, Linda. Have a great conversation.
Thank you. So I'd like to bring on now Steve Warren and Johnnie Ingram, who we're going to talk about the upcoming We're Here season 3. And then, of course, I'm going to pull in our episode, the St. George, Utah episode. But to start with, guys, what are you most excited about exploring in season 3?
I think season 3, quite frankly, is our most important season. We are living in a time that's very, very different from the time that existed when we created the show back in 2019. And we thought we were living in a place that was moving forward and that where a world of a show like this could showcase queer life in small towns and move forward. We didn't think what was going to happen happened, which is we were faced this year with threats of violence, with intimidation, with outright hostility that we did not experience in the past. Yet at the same time, what the beauty of the show really symbolizes is that in the face of all of that, we're going to these small towns and smaller cities, and we're seeing extraordinary passion, extraordinary love, extraordinary resilience. And the resilience is the thing that I would argue is the most important quality that we're able to showcase in our show.
I would agree. That resilience, the courage to keep showing up. And you're right. In Utah as well, we're seeing anti-trans bills get passed, and so like you say, the anti-LGBTQ legislation in the last year across the country, not just in Utah, is just been overwhelming and scary.
My hometown in eastern Tennessee and in Tennessee and places, in Florida and across the country, you're seeing these anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ, anti-drag legislation really pop up, and it's disheartening. But I think, it is important to what we're here in season 3 really, and what we've done across all seasons, but it's about right now. It's very much about the present time, and I think capturing, not only the negativity, but showing the queer resilience, the celebration, the joy that comes from our community, and from the people on the ground. The stories of the resilience is heartwarming, and it's beautiful to see. And I don't think we've ever seen anything like that on television before.
I would agree. So tell me, how is it that you chose Utah and then narrowed it down to St. George to be one of the towns that you came to and featured?
Well, originally, we have casting people, and at the beginning of each season, Johnnie, myself, HBO, our showrunners will talk about what we're looking to showcase in any particular season, and there'll be ideas of what if we came to this type of place or this type of place or this type of place. And Utah has, a very important place in this country right now, being the heart of Mormonism, which is a religion that traditionally has not been accepting of LGBTQ people, but is on its way towards hopefully a more, accepting nature. And really what we wanted to showcase, there is a school in Utah that the principal was fired the principal of the school wanted to put on a production of Rent, and that there were parents that were outraged, just absolutely outraged, that a high school sanitized version, not the Broadway version, but a high school sanitized version of Rent would be performed in St. George at this high school, that the principal was fired. And that originally we heard about that story, so we wanted to talk to the principal, we wanted to talk to the kids, we wanted to talk to the people, like how do they digest something like that when that happens? So that actually brought us there. And then in turn, we wound up finding 3 incredible people to tell the stories of, that some were connected with that and some weren't.
Yeah, each season, we like to build off of where we left off from the previous season, and previous season, in season 2 in particular, there was a lot of community leaders, that actually suffered some unfortunate circumstances after we left. For example, in Evansville, Indiana, Pastor Craig, who is head of a local Methodist church there, who wanted to just express love for the LGBT community. And I know the Methodist Church is currently sort of in a divisive state of its own, whether or not to accept gay marriage in their own religious teachings. But he has a pansexual daughter, and he wanted to perform on our stage to express love for his pansexual daughter. And sadly, after a really joyful and insanely beautiful performance, was pushed out of his church, and his family had to then leave their home and sort of establish themselves elsewhere, which was a very difficult time. But I mean, what was really special to see is after we did leave, the local community rallied and they stepped up, and now, if you ask Pastor Craig now, is thriving. He's opened up an inclusive ministry, which he's at the helm of, and is just doing really what he loves, and I think is definitely just living a much better life. It definitely had to go through a hurdle to get there, and I think we're seeing that. I mean, in little what's happening in St. George is, we got to see the community really stand up. So we come in and we don't overstay our welcome, but I mean, most importantly, leaving you with the power to create your own change. And I think that's something that is still going through in St. George, but we are hopeful that on the other side of that is light.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're aware that our city manager was driven out over standing up for our right and to have the We're Here show in our town park. And he said, as we were going through it, he stood up. He said, I will not back down. And I will give all for this. And he did. They drove him out.
What I have to say is that this, unfortunately, this was something we never expected to happen, where someone, for simply granting us the permit lawfully, the way that a city manager has done this for years and years, he granted us the permit, and then some people on the city council who are reflective of, unfortunately, what is happening all too often in this country right now, they decide to twist all the facts. They decide to lead with fear, and they decide for their own purposes, which are very, very twisted in terms of how they even explain what their purposes are, because it's not the truth. They wound up forcing a man out of his job, and it's literally unbelievable. For protecting the First Amendment and for our right to be able to have a show, a very family-friendly show in a park, there was outrage that was disproportionate to anything we could have ever imagined.
I mean, this is an example of the hatred that we're seeing and the political nature of or political people using the LGBT community for political gain, and sadly what happened this past weekend is an example of what really that rhetoric can lead to. And what we really are trying to do with the show is combat all of that rhetoric across the country. That's what this season was really about, is we sadly were affected by a lot of different, not just in Utah and Granbury, Texas, and Mississippi and Florida. The places we go this season are places where are ground zero for this rhetoric, and we're very lucky that we were able to create our show and share our stories and without harm. But that didn't go without a lot of negativity and hate speech. But we see, unfortunately, what happens when that hate speech infiltrates the country, and violence then becomes a sad, just a really sad time. Really sad things can happen. So,
but I've got to tell you, is in Texas, we're telling the story of a drag kid who led fighting book banning. So librarians are being fired across the country, for not wanting to enforce these book bans. City managers are being fired, just like happened in St. George, Utah, for protecting the First Amendment. And when you look at the arguments that are being used by the people on the St. George City Council and all these places throughout the country that are, experiencing this, they will say, oh, I have a gay brother, or I have a gay friend, or I have, I know gay people, I work with gay people, and they're supportive of me. They understand what I'm saying. I'm just trying to protect the children. Protect the children from what? From what? Are you not going to take your child to a Halloween parade in the future? Are you not going to take your child to the park when a woman is in a small bikini sunning? Are you not going to, what are you not going to do? Let's be consistent and let's be clear about what this is. This is simply, an expression of they're trying to exert power over a minority, and it is very hurtful and it's very dangerous.
It is. It's and I will say, I think the one good thing that has come of that is us galvanizing the community and really getting them engaged in. We've kind of created a strategy, so to speak. We know that we are not going to move the needle with this particular, I will not mention her name, person. And so, but what we've got to do is we are going to get to the people around her. We are going to get to them, have lunch with them, and show them and the truth about who we are and what we're doing. And you know, other city council members, we're developing a relationship with them so that as she spouts this stuff, they have what they need to say, no, that's not going to fly here. And so that's the one good thing that has come of this is we really are engaging the community and their allies to be more vocal and visible to the other council members and teach them.
I agree. Let me tell you, I would say St. George is a wonderful place. The people that we met in St. George are some of the people that we feel, Johnnie and I, the closest to. It is a beautiful community. It's beautiful. You know, the physical beauty of it is astounding. The people are, when we go to our favorite coffee shop, the Farmhouse, I think it's called, or, you know, it's like there's so many restaurants and places that we just love the people there. The overwhelming number of people in all of the small towns that we're going to truly want to be better people and want to be accepting and don't have any issue with this. It is a small minority that is literally
they're just
thousands
loud.
of times more vocal, and they particularly feel strong, you know, because they're behind their keyboards lots of the time. And they will threaten violence. They will threaten, you know, people's livelihood behind the keyboard. Yet it is rare when, you know, but it happens. You know, it happened in St. George. You know, it happened in Granbury, Texas. It's happened to us where they aren't behind their keyboard. And it's been a this season, you'll see it's very, very scary.
I mean, we're used to, I mean, even before this season, I mean, and when we come to town, these local Facebook groups and online rhetoric, you know, just, you know, ignite. I mean, part of the purpose of our show is to ignite those discussions that weren't happening, and then in hopes that we'll enlighten others, and through our storytelling and, you know, Bob, Shangela, and Eureka's bravery and, you know, and connection to the local community, and through their point of view and through a drag queen's point of view, who, you know, a drag queen develops quite a thick skin, you know, over their careers, especially in particular celebrity drag queens who do travel. I mean, they're in high demand, going, you know, from one place to another. And, you know, I think our three have a very specific connection to small communities and empathy, which when they sit down with locals and their local drag kids, they develop real relationships. I mean, what you're seeing on camera is real. It's authenticity. It's, you know, people want to open up and sort of see the bravery and the light of these performers that are so, you know, used to this, absorbing this negativity, but at the same time pushing through and showing such light. And I think that's really the time that we're in now, is using, you know, that bravery. It's in that light, and we can see through the darkness and know that on the other side of this is love, acceptance, and I think we're going to have to fight through it all, but we're going to get through it. And there is an overwhelming amount of joy and acceptance in every place we went through, and even in season 3. And I think there is hope out there, but just don't give up.
You know, Linda, I'm going to issue a little challenge now to the City Council in St. George. I can't wait for them to watch this episode. And when they watch this episode, they will see we're also a travel show. You know, and there was one reviewer last year that said this is the best travel show on TV, because we're going and showcasing all of these different places across the country. And in particular, I think St. George, you know, is incredibly appealing. And the St. George Chamber of Commerce could watch this show and say, wow, you know, they did a good job of showcasing what this place is about. So I challenge the City Council, make sure you watch this episode, and we are open to receiving any sort of letters of support or accommodation for thanking us for coming to the town.
I will let them know. I love that. And I would absolutely agree. The episode really does paint our community and as an incredible place to visit, and welcoming, and you know, just like you say, the beauty of our town is just unprecedented.
And queer people are everywhere. I mean, that is really, I mean, a lot of queer people have been pushed out of small local communities and or feeling unable to be themselves. But I do, and move to big cities like Los Angeles and New York. But I do think that there is a real time is changing, and I think that if we can create safe spaces everywhere, then queer people may not have to leave, and maybe there is an opportunity to open up a real wonderful business in St. George, Utah, or for what Stephen was saying, maybe there's a great network of travel where people can have to always go visit all the big cities across the world, but there are some really charming, gorgeous small communities that are very welcoming, like St. George, that come with open arms and open hearts. And I think that is really all the objective of what the show is about, is just creating spaces of love and safe places for everyone, so that everyone can feel free. The freedom that we all want is just to feel free to be ourselves and without judgment.
Yeah, I want to let you know, we invited our mayor and city council to the vigil that we held last night. And our mayor did come. We had one city council woman there as well, and the mayor spoke to us. And about that, I never want you to feel afraid in our town. And the police chief came last night, and we will have a discussion with him, because we are, as you know, we're going to be doing a premiere showing at the theater here in town. And after yesterday, of course, we got lots of texts and calls worried about all of us gathering in a theater to watch We're Here, a drag show. So we've got to address that now. But it was huge.
We're coming. Yeah.
I know, and I'm so grateful that you'll be there. And I'm going to have a discussion with the police chief, and we're going to make a plan on how we can make sure that theater stays safe for us.
It was reported, I think, in the Salt Lake City Tribune that we were confronted. The police department received a threat saying, before the day of the show, saying that this is the perfect place for a mass shooting.
Yeah.
This happened right the day before. Our drag show happened in St. George, Utah,
and thank God for the police and the security, and we felt very safe.
Yeah, we did. We took the threat very seriously, and to protect not only our crew and our cast and the people of St. George. I think we were very concerned, and I think we had some very serious and important conversations with our production team and with the leadership of St. George, and in fact, it was I think it was the chief of police, to ensure that we do whatever we can to remain safe, and they made sure the threat wasn't credible, and we decided the show must go on, and we had that show. It was so important for us to not let the haters win. I mean, in unfortunate times like these, and examples of what happened in Colorado Springs is really devastating and can be really scary for a lot of us, but we're not going to let that. Sorry, I'm very emotional, but we're not going to let that beat us down, and we're going to come, and we're going to have a great premiere in St. George, Utah, and we're going to share stories. And I'm hopeful that someone that maybe misjudged us while we were on the ground in St. George will watch this episode, and it'll change their mind and their heart, and they'll start to understand that that we're all just human beings that want to be able to live freely.
So I want to ask this, because it's something that I've wondered. What is the process, or how do you match the queens with the people you're featuring?
We have a wonderful casting team, and our queens they're artists. They're human beings that have their own, they have their own stories within that we know, because as we are close with our queens, and we've learned a lot about them and their struggles, even how they've become queens in their own right. And I think understanding their personal journeys and the journeys of the people that we meet on the ground in these communities, we really pair them based on how they will think that they'll have a magnetic spark. It's sort of almost like matchmaking in a way that we know that they're going to have they're going to be able to connect to them at a very personal level. And I think that authenticity, like what you're seeing on screen, is very real. The conversations they're having is very real. The emotion that they have is very real. We don't want it to feel forced or like anyone's acting. This is unscripted television.
All unscripted, yeah.
This, we've been called a reality show, but we're not really a reality show. These are reality stars that came from another reality franchise, RuPaul's Drag Race, but this is a documentary about real life and about real communities and real people that are thriving and some people that are struggling in small towns. And I think it's important that we highlight that authenticity and for people like yourself and for people that are actually fighting, on the ground, community leaders that are fighting for acceptance, for love, and fighting for the LGBT community, that don't often get this kind of light. So,
and each of the queens, answering your question further too, is each of the queens, like Johnnie was saying, has their own strengths and they have their own weaknesses, so we look to figure out who's going to mesh the best with each of the drag kids, and that by and large, I think we've done a really good job. I got to pat ourselves on the back because
I would agree. It's the magic.
I can't imagine, like one of the drag, I can't imagine what the show would be like if we mismatched.
Yeah. Well, it truly is the magic of the show, is that connection and the relationship that develops between the drag queens and their babies, right? And
I'm really encouraging everybody to watch the Mississippi episode, which will be airing second. Eureka is paired with a drag kid named Chris, and their chemistry is magic. I mean, it feels as if they were meant to, in this world, to collide together and bring the message that they put forth into the world. It's funny, it's touching, it's informative, it's beautiful.
In a later episode, I mean, there's some. It's not always sparks and butterflies. There with in our New Jersey episode, we have a very different type of drag kid we've never really done before. We're paired with Shangela, who it's a little bit like moving the needle is much harder than it would normally. They would normally be. And I think, the objective here is to share diverse stories from people of all kinds of backgrounds, from all walks of life. And, sometimes we do like to feature community leaders, but sometimes we have people that are not necessarily anywhere near that. And I think that is, but that is part of the magic of the show. Is there's a story out there, many, many different types of stories that we could just tell infinitely.
Okay, we have time for one more question. What are you most excited about for this season 3 for us to discover?
I'm really hoping that this is the season, and especially over the holidays, it's when we're going to be airing these new episodes. I really am hoping that people watch this with their families, that they watch it with their mothers, their brothers, their sisters, their uncles, their aunts, their cousins, their friends, and they get the word out, because you can talk and you can watch newscasters talk about all the things that are going on in this country that are so wrong, and you can say, what can we do, the best way. And again, I come from the time of, I came of age in the 80s during the AIDS crisis, and that it wasn't the most important thing that I believe came out of the AIDS crisis was visibility, and that the same thing that needs to happen now is that we need visibility. And when you get the mothers and you get your families all watching, and Linda, you epitomize this. I mean, we got to meet you at a poetry slam in St. George, Utah, delivering this insanely beautiful poem, and that you are a mother of 9. Your husband is wonderful. We've gotten to know you. It's like the Lindas of the world need to get this word out to everybody, so that you can feel, I can do something. I can actually get to know somebody, and maybe I can open my mind a little.
think sharing stories is important. I think we're so used to, and what we're struggling with right now is this meme culture and this internet culture where we're just sharing just a headline or something that isn't really enough substantial. It's not a substantial way to really get to know anyone, and you're reading these things and you're reacting to these things, and it's sort of by design. And we're hoping, like, We're Here is not just a meme. It's an hour-long, bubble of love, and it's about self-expression. It's about the journey of many different types of LGBTQ and allies, and I think of people that are, fighting a fight that already has happened in New York and LA in these smaller communities. And I think we're seeing a movement that is so impactful that, I think not only for people in big cities to watch, because we have created our safe spaces here that are also under attack right as we speak, but we're defending that, and we're going to help those and connect to the people that are in the middle and pay them a visit, donate whatever we can to help, because we know that that we don't want to just have to live in the darkness. We want to be able to express ourselves anywhere across this country, and sharing this show, I think, is a step in that direction. If you can share this with your mother, your family, your chosen family, anyone out there that has a heart will, I think,
tweet about it.
Yeah,
if Twitter still exists. Post about it, on more appropriate venues.
It's so that is what we hope this season will get spread far and wide.
So I want to share with you that having We're Here come to the park, I think we were the largest crowd you've ever had. Yes,
by far.
Oh my gosh! This was. I mean, we have to say, mind blowing from the perspective of any show we've ever created. We started before COVID, and then our first season, COVID happened, so we had a little bit of a bubble for season 2, but for season 3, we were able to have larger crowds outdoors naturally, and we had, I can't believe just the town, but based on the fact that not only did St. George step up to the city council and was trying to pull our permit, but they showed up in droves to this drag show. I mean, I know we had over 2,000 RSVPs, and I just saw a sea of people that was, it was moving and emotional, and just for this our small little drag show, that to see the community show up, not only stand up, but show up and celebrate these beautiful small LGBTQ stories that we feature in this episode. It was absolutely just mind-blowingly powerful, and I know we got so emotional seeing that crowd. It looked like I called it Gaychella. It was just this massive crowd of people.
I think that one of the most beautiful parts of our experience, for me personally, was standing, on a little bit of the rafters, near the, at the stage, and I looked at the crowd, and it was the most jubilant crowd imaginable. Then I look on the mountain behind with the pride colors that the town, I guess, somehow were able to put on there. Then I look behind the stage, and there's a Mormon temple steeple that is lit up beautifully, and it's the future, it's the hope. It symbolized everything that we want this show to be, and we want the world to be.
I mean, a shout out to our showrunner, our director, Peter LoGreco. I think he did such a fantastic, resilient, and working behind the scenes to make all of that happen, and to even be able to create a safe space for a crowd that large. That it was really by design. He jumped through so many hoops to help make even the event itself happen, but much less. We weren't expecting such a wild turnout, but wow, was it incredible.
Well, I want to tell you, talk about a movement. Our little pride of Southern Utah just got its 501c3, and we're official. And but that event for our community and our allies and people to come together, people were crying. I've never seen so many gay people in one place. I didn't know there was this many people that cared about me. And so this movement, it gave us so much exposure for Pride of Southern Utah to say, look, we're here, we're going to continue doing these things. And so you really helped us create that movement of come out and join us, show up, we're here, and we're here for you. And come
in the town square.
In town square. Thousands in our town square. It's life-saving and certainly incredible for our little Pride organization that's really got big plans and big goals for our community.
Well, thank you, Linda. Thank you for being you and for telling us this and for just
and championing
yes.
the local organization. I mean, we, like I said, you are the way forward. I mean, creating safe spaces in local communities. I mean, and fighting the uphill battle that you have is so important, and we're truly grateful to celebrate you and to highlight this, the stories of your community and the work that you've done. Like you said, we can't take any credit for just coming in and showing you that there is possibilities. There is, and imagine, that, crowd of people every year, every month. I mean, every day, just people living their lives openly, outwardly, and full of love.
Well, thank you so much.
Linda. Thank you for doing this.
Love you. I can't wait to see you in a few weeks.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, and keep up the great work.